Hey everyone, how's it going? Get me out here. Saviors of Doom has been a crazy awesome expansion. I've been playing so many new decks, it's hard to believe that it's only been a month, right? So with a new month comes a new ladder season, uh, and so you're in the right place if you're looking for some fun new decks to play this month. So I'm going to give you 36 decks, 4 decks for each class, and I'm going to share them with you as fast as I can. So all of these lists are my own unless otherwise specified, and so because they're mine, they're almost certainly not optimal. I do like to run a lot of cards just because they're fun. Um, so not all the decks that I'm going to share with you today are guaranteed to have a high win rate, but they're all 100% guaranteed to be fun. So you can find a lot of gameplay of the decks that I share in this video elsewhere on this channel via the stream highlights. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. But with that, let's go ahead and get started. So first up, we have Druid. The first Druid deck that I want to talk about is King Phaoris Jade Druid. King Phaoris, Overflow, and Anubis Defender gave the deck a whole other layer of threats with some insane cycle potential to get the Jade train rolling. There's nothing more satisfying than playing a King Phaoris and getting a huge board of 7 and 10 drops. Next up, we have Taunt Druid. Quartet Defender is one of the sleeper MVP cards of the set. Changed my mind. This card has an insane interaction with stuff like Carnivorous Cube and N'Zoth. Our home, our tombs. I will never get sick of hearing that. This deck has some crazy value with Witching Hour and feels really, really, really good to play in the current meta. Next up, we have Blutrane Reno Druid. With the introduction of Elise, and in combination with Reno Jackson and Floop and Zephyrus, this deck can do some dumb value generation things. While I still think this is significantly lower in power level than the traditional 3 Reno decks, as refinement, continues, I think this deck might actually be a potential player because you have the OP Druid cards, you have Reno and Zephyrus, and then you can do some really dumb infinite combos. And last but not least for Druid, we have our quest. You gotta run the quest, right? And so this is, I think, another deck that you just have to try if you have the cards for it. If you can get away with doing nothing in the early game and completing that quest, the amount of value, tempo, and just crazy swing turns that you can pull off is insane. So keep your eye out for turns with Kun playing some stuff and then floop the Kun to get a whole nother 10 mana and then do a bunch of board buffing swing turn. It's pretty crazy. And then, of course, you have the synergy with Jade Idol. No longer losing the tempo of shuffling the card. Next up, we've got Hunter. So Hunter got some pretty cool tools this set with Reno support as well as some cool secret synergy and combo deck support. So the first deck that I want to show is Duwin's Secret Reno Hunter. So Duwin is the Hunter Whisperer, so I tend to default to him when it comes to Hunter list. This is his latest preferred list that I could find, and it tends to play very similar to the standard list for you standard viewers, playing mainly for tempo and tempo and hitting in the face, right? And so in contrast to the Secret Reno Hunter, I've shown my Death Rattle Reno Hunter. So this plays a lot more defensive and controlling than the Secret build, which has its advantages and disadvantages. I just like my control decks, and I think the cool and cute synergies that you can do with specific Hunter cards like Explosive Sheep and stuff like Play Dad, and then obviously strong Hunter Death Rattles and Cube and N'Zoth. Next up we have Secret Hunter. And so I actually think this deck would be crazy good in the meta if everyone and their mother wasn't teching out of their mind for Secret Mage. So Secret Hunter gets caught in the crossfire, so play this deck at your own risk. But this aggressive Hunter deck utilizing secrets gets that really good 4-drop with the Hyena. Going Cloaked Huntress into Hyena Alpha into Subject 9 is just a crazy curve. And it's something that the deck was missing, and I would love to see if as the meta adjusts and potentially Secret Mage goes down in play rate, I would love to see the potential for Secret Hunter because I think it's actually pretty damn good. And last but not least, we have KookieBot's Gazrilla OTK Hunter deck, and so Hunter got this card called Scarlet Webweaver that just allows you to do some pretty stupid combos. So what you do is you just discount Tundra or Gazrilla by 5 using Scarlet Webweaver, and then you basically get a charging Gazrilla that you can get in some massive amounts of damage when utilized in combination with some pings like Arcane Shot and Rapid Fire. Alright, so moving on to Mage. So Mage got obviously some secret and some Highlander support cards. Everybody knows the big bad evil that is Secret Mage, but one of the more consistent counters that I've found is actually also Secret Mage, just a little bit of a different take. So what I've shown you here is Corbet's Aggro Reno Secret Mage, in which the Zephrys, Kazakis, and the 2 Renos give you the edge in the Secret Mage mirror, while still having the Secret Mage high roll potential against lower decks, as well as the potential value generation or finishing power of Zephrys and Kazakis. Next up, we have some big Spell Mage, which got some support in the form of Naga Sandwich. Wow, that's the name always makes me a little bit hungry. King Phaoris, Tortolan Pilgrim, and of course, Puzzle Box of Pog Saran. So this deck doesn't have a quote-unquote legit win condition in the traditional set of a win condition, other than, tempoing out your opponents with big swing turns with Medivh and Alana and King Phaoris and Kaligos, as well as just controlling the game with AoE and Jaina against aggro. And let me tell you, when you play 4 puzzle boxes in a game, you're going to tend to win. And to round out the Mage section, I just wanted to share 2 versions of a pretty competitive deck, I think, in my opinion, which is Reno Mage. And these are 2 builds that I've been experimenting with. So first up is a big spell Reno Mage. So this version is a lot more traditional of a control deck, right? With a bunch of AoE spells, and then generation of value off of Kaligos and Zephrys and Kazakis. This is your pretty typical control Reno Mage from previous expansions. And then we have a Reno Mage that's much more focused on minions and some of the cool interactions that you have with stuff like Barista Lynchin and a lot of the other pretty powerful battle cries that you're running in the deck. So this deck doesn't run the traditional AoE package, right? You're not running stuff like Flamestrike and Blizzard. And so you're relying a little bit more on stuff like Reno the Relicologist and Zephrys and Kazakis against aggro, but the value generation of this deck is off the charts in slow matchups. So depending on your meta, you can pick between the 2 Reno Mages. But this minion-based version is actually what I'm climbing to Legend with this month, and I've jumped out to an 18-5 record with this deck in the current metagame, filled with Reno Warlocks, Combo Warlocks, and Seeker Mages. So I've played this deck from rank 4 to a couple wins within Legend, so I think this deck is actually pretty damn good. Obviously can be refined, though. So moving on to Paladin. Paladin got a weird mix of cards this set, so I've showcased a little bit of everything here. So first up, we have some Quest Paladin. I really hope that Blizzard decides to release a few more Reborn minions in later sets, because I feel like this deck is just a little bit off of being a legit deck. With all the strong death rattles and powerful effects in Wild, the completed quest hero power reward is insane value. It's just how the heck do we get there effectively and efficiently? Next up, we have Yami's Tip the Scales Paladin. So while this is a meta deck in Standard, this is a little too cute and Wild to a little bit too inconsistent, especially with a larger number of AoE options available to decks. But the same strategy is definitely viable in Wild with the stronger pool of Murlocs and the Murloc Synergy cards. Of course, we have to talk Reno Paladin with the release of Sir Finley. So my problem is the traditional versions of Reno Paladin that I've experimented with a late game win condition just really don't suit Sir Finley's effect very well. So I want to experiment later for sure with some more aggressive Zooey builds of Reno Paladin. But at that point, is the consistency that you're giving up worth what you're getting from Sir Finley and Zephrys? And I don't know, maybe we'll see. It's definitely something I want to experiment with more. And last but not least, we have the Evil Odd Paladin. So this didn't make my top 5 decks, which you can find elsewhere. But while nothing brand spanking new, I think this deck is still a very good ladder deck that's pretty much disappeared from the metagame for God knows what reason. But I think this deck is still very viable and very competitive, and something that if you're looking to climb a little bit, not totally meme, this is still a very viable and competitive deck. So moving on to Priest. So first up, we have a grindy control Reno Priest, utilizing Zephrys and some of the really strong new defensive options that were released in Saviors of Uldum. Be wary when playing this deck, because you tend to generate a lot of value, and so games tend to go really, really long. But the wins are that much more satisfying. If long control Reno Priest games aren't your style, no worries. We have Memnarch's OTK Reno Priest that utilizes Zephrys and 2 potential OTKs through the Spawn of Shadows and Velen Akanai Phantasm with Flash Shield and Regenerate, while still maintaining that good old Priest AoE and draw package. Next up, we have Quest Inner Fire Priest. So I think this is the best way to utilize the new quest in Wild, using Cleric and Pyromancer and Circle Feeling, very similar to the standard Inner Fire Priest package. This enables you to play through the alternate tempo win condition with the quest reward hero power, which is something this deck tends to do anyways. I will say this deck got a lot worse with the reverted buff, so that I guess the nerf to extra arms. But you just stick back in Velen's Chosen, right, which is what you were running before the extra arms buff. And I think Inner Fire will always continue to be a deck throughout the history of Wild Hearthstone. And this is just a different version that I was having some success with if you got the new Priest quest. I think this is your go-to version. And last but not least is one of my favorite decks of all time, actually. We've got Egg Priest, which got many a tool this expansion. You can do some pretty crazy things with the synergies available to you. However, this expansion didn't address the problem with the deck, which is where if you lose the board, you lose the game. But however, this deck is a blast, and I'm going to love it forever, and I'm going to come back to it every expansion, maybe every month. Yeah, so moving on to Rogue, we've got some Quest Burgle Rogue. So this deck really wants to be built as like a tempo Rogue package, and the reason to build it like this is so that you're not as susceptible to weapon removal. So this is very similar to the Tempo Burgle Rogue that's being played in Standard, but of course with the more powerful versions of similar cards in Wild. And next up we have Cookiebot's Burgle Rogue. And so this is a Burgle Rogue that runs the Spectral Cutlass package. So while it's susceptible to weapon removal, it gives the Rogue the longevity of a lifesteal weapon, right? So think back to old school Kingsbane Mill Rogue. And Cookie also runs like a Hook Task package as a way to regain tempo that you lose through the building up of your weapon. And then we have some Jade Rogue. So this is a deck that I've actually, had a pretty decent amount of success with on ladder. So Quartet Defender with N'Zoth and Cubes just gives you so much longevity and gives you the ability to sort of play a slow game in Rogue, right? And with the Rogue Death Rattle copies and triggers, you can get some pretty big Jades pretty damn quick. So in this list, the Leroy might look a little bit out of place, but I personally like this as a little bit of a spicy inclusion because you can get some pretty large burst potential with Anka, Leroy, and Cubes, and then triggering some death rattles on the Cubes with Backstab or Necreon Blade. And last but not least, we have good old N'Zoth Millrogue. So N'Zoth Millrogue uses that defensive package that I was talking about earlier with Deathlords, Apple Bombs, and Quartet Defenders with multiple, almost infinite N'Zoths, or Cold Light Oracles, depending on your win condition that you're going for. I think that this mill package is the way to go if you want to play Mill Rogue, but please don't play Mill Rogue because I dislike mill decks, and my opinion is the only one that matters, right? Totally. Moving on to Shaman. So Shaman got some really, really, really cool cards this set, with the Quest and Lackeys being the highlights. So I've actually chosen 4 pretty different takes on Quest Shaman to highlight all the crazy crap you can do with this deck. So first up, we have Ghost Dog's Reno Shutter Shaman. So this is probably the most competitive out of the 4 quest decks that I'm going to show you. So this is an OTK Shutter Shaman deck with Life Drinker and the infinite bouncing of the Shutterwalk that takes the Reno Shell with the multiple Battlecry synergies to create a pretty good anti-aggro shell to help you sustain while you're going off with your infinite Shutterwalks. And so one of the cooler Battlecries out there, though, is Cthulhu. OG Cthulhu, right? So let's double all the Cthulhu buffers, and then find a way to double our Cthulhu Battlecry in this really awesome take in Quest Cthulhu Shaman that I was actually having, again, some pretty decent amount of success with on ladder. The next take that we have is Ecthelion's Aggro Evolve Shaman, which is a fun, unique take that utilizes the quest to allow the duplicating minions even more ability to spread, right? So more Doppelgangsters, more Pantry Spiders, to take advantage of those powerful evolve effects that you have in your deck. So this is a lot more aggressive than the other 2 decks that I've shown, but we all know Smork is king, and this deck is pretty damn fun. And last but not least, we have Quest Jade Shaman. So this is the list that most people kind of run to when they think about the quest. So this takes advantage of the quest to build up your Jade super, super quick, faster than normal, as well as the Lothar build a board, Shutterwalk, win condition, sort of tempo style that we were used to when the Shutterwalk kind of first got resurrected in Wild. The main inconsistency that I find with this deck is card drop, but, if you can find a way to draw cards, this deck's good. Next up, we have Warrior. So first up is Hack the System, the new Warrior quest. So this deck aims to take advantage of the early game pirate weapons and weapons like Soul Rays and Fool's Bane to quickly complete the quest in order to get the free 4/3s rolling. So this deck's more mid-range tempo deck, and if you can get the quest done quickly enough, the 4/3s can end up snowballing pretty damn quickly. Next up, we have Taunt Warrior. So Taunt Warrior was the big warrior archetype that was pushed this expansion, with the old quest deck for Warrior actually being the real star for Warrior this expansion. Into the Fray is busted, and Frightened Flunky and Armageddon are great additions to this deck. Taunt Warrior is a legit deck to be reckoned with in this meta. Another expansion, another slight buff to Patron Warrior. Bloodstorm Mercenary is a crazy good tempo card, as well as a potential combo card with Leroy Inner Rage, Bloodstorm Mercenary, if you want to go that route instead of the Grom. Patron Warrior is still a very niche deck, but it always feels good to play and win with. And last but not least is Wrench Caliber Pirate Warrior. So this is actually a deck that didn't get any tools from the new expansion, but a newer take on the old classic is people opting to run Wrench Calibers instead of Deathspite for the sole purpose of shuffling multiple bombs to turn off the Reno for the multitude of Reno decks that are out there. And you might notice that I skipped Warlock. I'm going a little bit out of order because I said 36 decks, but Warlock is my favorite class and the one that I've been experimenting with the most, so I couldn't narrow this down to just 4, so I'm going to give you a bunch of decks. So alongside Snip Snap Warlock from the top 5 decks, we have Jackscale's Dynamancer Warlock, which is a combo deck that focuses solely on discarding Cruel Dynamancers with Expired Merchants, and then creating an unclearable board with the Umbra Dynamancer synergy. Very similar to the old school Dreadsteed synergy, if you guys remember that. I also have a self-damage Zoolock that takes advantage of some of the new self-damage cards in Nephroset Thrasher and Disease Vulture, in addition to the Hooked Reaver and Molten Giant power cards that are available in the wild format. If you know me, you know I love some Reno-Lock, so I've got 2 different versions here. The first one is my normal defensive Reno-Lock version, with some new additions and what I believe is the best way to tech for the current meta. And then next up we have Soul Warden Reno-Lock. And so this aims to take advantage of Expired Merchant, Soul Warden, and some other discard synergies to basically gain infinite Blood Reaver Guldans. So basically, Expired Merchant your Gul'dan, and then you Shriek your Baleful Banker, and you get infinite Gul'dan. So every time you play a Soul Warden, you get a Banker to shuffle, as well as the Gul'dan from that you discarded earlier. This deck's really fun. It's my personal favorite deck right now, just because infinite Blood Reaver Guldans, who doesn't love that? Next up, we have a Control Warlock list. So this list is a lot easier to gain infinite value with the discard synergy. Of course, this comes at the expense of the Reno payoffs. I mean, this is a really cool deck that you can pull off some pretty damn cool games, some pretty fun games. And since you're running 2 ofs, you get the consistency when it comes to stuff like your demons and your taunts and your defiles. Can you guys tell that I like the Expired Merchant Soul Warden baggage yet? So next up, we have King Phaoris Warlock. So this is a pretty cool deck that was inspired by a guy named Whips in my Twitch chat, so I just want to shout out to him. So basically, the goal of this Warlock deck is to generate multiple high-cost spells or multiple King Phaorises through your Expired Merchant synergies to create massive boards in the late game. And you're still able to utilize your strong Warlock defensive options and control tools. And last but not least is the deck that I hit Legend with last month, Even Reno Mechathune Warlock. So I hit Legend with a 23-10 record with this deck. And yes, that was all with the darkness, no meme, just because there were so many Reno decks last month. Not core at all, by the way. You can definitely replace it. I originally thought I built this deck as a meme, but it actually turns out that it's pretty damn good. 1 mana life tap gives a Reno deck a hell of a lot more consistency. And, the power that you lose from losing stuff like Mal'Ganis and Voidlord makes up for the win condition, right, of Mechathune. I hope you guys all enjoyed the quick run-through of the Saviors of Doom decks that I've been playing in this meta. If there are decks that I am missing that you're playing, please feel free to let me know in the comments below. I'm always looking for more decks. If you're looking for what I think are the most competitive decks in the Saviors of Doom meta, make sure you check out my top 5 Saviors of Doom video, either through my end screen or elsewhere on my YouTube page. So if you guys enjoy content like this, please let me know in the comments below. Make sure you hit that like button and subscribe. The small things mean a lot. So stay tuned for daily stream highlights and potentially more videos like this if you guys enjoyed it. And make sure you guys feel free to drop a follow on Twitch as I stream 5 days a week. I hope you guys all enjoyed. Have fun in the Saviors of Doom meta, and I will see you guys later. Take care.